Oh, okay.
We welcome everybody to the second episode here of the Paramount Podcast with our guest, Dave Dini, CEO of Paramount Lead Solutions. The title of our podcast today is The Unlimited Power of the Telephone. You see what I did there, Dave, with the title?
Yeah, like it. Unlimited
So
Power by Anthony Robbins.
that's right, and we'll be discussing some Anthony Robbins today, some Jim Rohn, Ewell Stanley Anderson, Success Cybernetics, which was a staple that you made me read early on. Og Mandino, obviously the scrolls. So we'll get into some of these topics.
That's twice you said that guy's name, and I didn't know if you were just getting it wrong. But you must have looked up what the initials stand for U.S. Anderson, huh?
Yes, I did.
Wow, I never knew that.
You don't come across a name like Ewell too often.
No. Ewell Stanley? No wonder he calls himself U.S.
Well, we've been talking. This comes up in our business often. You teach harnessing the power of the telephone. I think our business was built on harnessing the power of the telephone, and as time goes on and as things change, I think some things stay the same. And I think where we are today, the power of the telephone, I see it more vital than ever. So I'd like to get into that a little bit with you today. I think the analogy, Dave, that I think of when I think of the telephone and as it relates to what we talk about here at Paramount, WSM, work ethic, skill set, mindset. I think when people think of the telephone, they're always viewing it as it's an iceberg, right? And everyone just focuses on what's above the waterline, which is it's the skill set, right? It's, hey Dave, what are the word tracks you guys are using over there? What are the objections? How do you handle this rebuttal? How do you handle that rebuttal? Mm-hmm. And I've come to learn from your teachings over time. I mean, all of that is great and it's important, but that only might be 10% of what makes up someone to be a master of the telephone, a master salesman. It's the other things below the waterline, the work ethic, the mindset, most importantly, that really make it up. What do you think of that analogy?
I agree with it. To give you another analogy, people in the gym are really focused in on getting their gym time. And this is not everybody, but the people that fail, but they go to the gym, they fail to realize the gym is maybe maximum 20 to 30%. If they get the other 70% wrong, what they do in the gym doesn't matter. And that other 70% is what you eat.
Yeah.
So if you're throwing down a bunch of bonbons and eating terrible foods, it's destructive and it's countering what it is you're doing. It's not the most important thing, but it's the thing that the average kind of hang their hat on as the thing. I'm just going to work out harder. I'm going to work out longer. But if they slept well and ate well all day long, they really wouldn't probably have to touch a weight. So, people get caught up in words, and yeah, you have to know how to play the game. Meaning, if you wanted to play basketball or football or baseball or whatever, you have to have a skill set to be able to go out and play.
Yeah.
But if your mind is broken and on the wrong things, all the skills in the world aren't going to matter. In work, it's similar. In selling, it's absolutely the same. The words are important, but only if you have the most important things, which is the right mindset. And the mindset doesn't even really matter if you don't pick up the phone and dial.
Yeah.
So you have to be a hard worker. You have to be able to put those skills and the mindset into action. So we call it WSM in part because it's, you got to start with being a hard worker.
Yeah.
And then you go to, all right, you got to have some skills to play.
Mm-hmm.
But mindset, to me, is the one that gets you to actually have a work ethic and develop skills. You got to have the right mindset. So.
And have you continue growing and developing those skills. It's the Ogmandino, the scroll is better than I do. I think scroll 3, I will persist until I succeed. Right? There is no if. He says until. Right? And I know you're writing a book, and you talk about that a lot. It's I will until. Right? What does that mean to you?
The word until, the way it's described in the book, and you hear a lot of motivators talking about it, it just means there's no time limit. I'll do it or I'll die. And once you've made that sort of commitment to anything, you're going to get good at it. You're going to get your result. It might not come exactly when you want it, but it's going to come.
Yeah.
And most people, whether it's in a relationship or let's just talk about sales or a job, I'm going to give it another 6 months. You say those words, it's a kiss of death.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it gets difficult, you're going to be fueling more evidence to support the fact that 6 months you couldn't come fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's not some lightning bolt that's going to happen in 6 months. It's going to generate some great sales. It's going to make you good. It might make you a few bucks because you stepped in poop, but it's temporary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is you got to be all in 100% no matter what and then you got a shot.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we'll discuss today, I think, just one of the topics that relates to this is just the question of why do so many salespeople, they just focus on polishing their skills, but they skip the deeper stuff. And I think we'll unpack that a bit here through this conversation today. So let's talk about the WSM framework, right? Where did that come from? How did this come to be? Talk a little bit, Dave, about the WSM framework and how that relates to our company and sort of where that came from.
Well, when you're sitting there trying to recreate, like we started this conversation about, telling people the secret, telling people, the obvious that they're not seeing, you have to find a way to put it into some sort of initials or some sort of an acronym, something that you got to keep it simple so it's relatable. And that's why Aesop's fables have their success, because they have meaning. They're driving home a point, but they're making it about something else so that you don't feel like they're talking about you. And you subconsciously apply what's necessary or what you need without your filters coming into play because someone's telling you you're no good. Someone's telling you that you're lazy. Someone tells you that the defense mechanisms typically go up, and then you don't work hard. WSM was the simplest way. Like, hey, work ethic. And then what does that mean? You might have to share that with somebody. But what is it? Work ethic. What is good work ethic? What is a poor work ethic? Then skill set. We're letting them know skill set's not number one, and really isn't number two. And work ethic would really be number two, because mindset sets it all. But we got to start with the simpler version, which is I'd rather take a dummy or somebody that knows nothing, but they are just working their bag off, and direct them, help them with their focus by adding some skills and having them set goals, which then gets into mindset as to the why behind the work ethic and the skill set. So I think for our company, Dom, I don't think I know that if you want to set yourself apart in this world, you have to make a decision that you're not like everybody else. I was sold on a bunch of different metaphors, a bunch of different ways of looking at life, that there's an upper 1%. There's an upper 5%. Okay? So if you're going to presuppose, these are presuppositions. That's not a presupposition. That's, I guess, a fact if you're measuring it just by dollars, let's just say.
Yeah.
But if you gotta have some presuppositions that support you. So one of them is there's a 1%, a 5%, a 10%, and then the flip side of that is that means there's 95% or 99% that aren't doing very well.
Yeah.
Or aren't as happy as they could be.
Yeah.
So what are the specific things that the 1%ers think and that the 1%ers do consistently? If we're all human, created by God, then what's going to set one apart from the other? Now, the people who aren't winning, the people in the 95% bracket, they'll tell you. It has to do with your upbringing, your environment, who's lucky, all these other things, because that helps them support why they're not in the 1% or the 5%.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. But if you're going to talk to the 1% and the 5%, they're regular people too. And I would say 99 to 95% of the 1% and 5% didn't get education or didn't have it easy. They had a tough road.
Yeah.
So they identified with something that made them believe that it was possible for them also. And for me, culturally, in our company, then, we don't want to be just another company that has good words to say. We have to help people live a better life. So we have to help people with the program that they run on a regular basis that they're expecting a happy outcome of life with. And if the words they choose to describe how they feel, if the actions they take when it's rough, if how they step up or don't when bad things happen, if that's not in line with the person that becomes a 5%er or a 1%er, then you got to help them fix it. They might say, well, who are you? How do you know? Especially when you're just starting out. But you've had these minor successes. I had them in my early days, playing baseball, football, whatever it might have been. What is going to get me to step up and be the captain or start or make all conference, division, state? Those aren't guarantees, right? But what gives me the best chance? Well, if I want to be a 1% or a 5%er, what are the things that most of my teammates seem to do every day? And what are the things that those upperclassmen did?
Yeah.
And I would look at those things. And then I would hear the way people would respond or act when they got pulled out of a game or they struck out or we lost or whatever it might have been. I'm like, okay, then that's not the way to think. And then I started reading books that supported the things that I saw. Like it was a big secret. It's not. It's right there in front of you. But you have to make that decision. Are you want to be a 1%er or a 5%er? You got to do the things on a regular basis average people don't do. You have to create new definitions, reframe things, create new presuppositions that help you stay with these things that don't seem to have much meaning because they don't impact your life right away. You got to buy into them and do them just every day, little by little, step by step. So
and let's
that's how I think it's affected our culture, Don. I think that we had to start with that. Then we add skill. And then, of course, the work ethic has to be there. And we hire based on that we believe someone's going to be a hard worker. Because if you stick somebody with a pin, as U.S. Anderson said, and they say, ouch, they're probably not the person to hire. You stick somebody with a pin and they slap you in the face, then that might be a person you want.
I like that. I mean, I think we always talk about, too, hiring from that standpoint. It's easier to be able to maybe reel someone in a little bit that it is too much of a wild card as opposed to really be able to pull it out from someone that is just very, I don't know if introverted is the right word necessarily, but just very, shy. They can't break out of that shell. So It's
Yeah,
easier to be able to tame someone as
totally.
opposed to bring that beast out of someone.
Yeah, I'd rather have it that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A responsibility to see, again, 1%, 5% rule. If 1% or 5% of the people that are hiring see somebody and say, I've got no value, my mind automatically says, let me find the value. To a fault.
Let's dive in a little bit more into work ethic. So I want to break these down now section by section. So work ethic is the driving force, right? Work ethic, it's about consistency. It's about making those calls even when you're zero for your 8 hours that you worked. Ogmandino's Scroll 9, I Will Act Now. So share a story, Dave, and I'm just thinking of the story, which always makes me laugh. The story that you've shared with me plenty of times back in your radio days when you were wearing a suit at midnight running around a track field somewhere. But I think that's just an example of work ethic and that driving force. But what the hell were you doing up late at night sprinting around a track field in a suit? Tell us about that.
All right, well, so again, my story is I didn't have anything growing up. I wanted to have something, and now you got this mindset that says you can have, do, or be anything as long as you're willing to do the things that only the 1%ers and the 5%ers do, and that most people aren't willing to do. So to your point, many people would say after 8 hours of working, because that's the shift,
Yeah.
right? Gave it my all. Not what you said, give it your all, Dave. I gave it my all. And you got to go back to that person, bring them to a mirror and say, you really did it all? You really did everything? If we went back on every single phone call, you had the right mindset throughout the whole call? You did of course the answer is no, if they're honest. Anyway, so I was working one particular week, and I was having a really rough time. And I was in my own head doing everything, because I'm doing the 1%ers work, the 5%ers work. And other people would say, why are you staying? Why are you here? Your 8 hours is done. And you did nothing for your 8 hours. If I did nothing for my 8 hours, I'd be gone. One analogy, or one thing I like to consider is, I know that somebody came out with this book, 10,000 Hours. Way before that book ever came out, I had used an analogy that said, well, imagine if it took 10,000 repetitions at something to become a master. And if by chance you had to give 10,000 presentations all the way through, top to bottom, when they say this, you say that. When they say this, you say that, before you could become a master, then even though I'm 0 for 8 hours, I still might have 9,247 actions that I have to still take.
Yeah.
So I always found a silver lining or a presupposition to keep going.
Yeah.
When everybody else would quit, I knew that was the time to give more.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew it. Because back to my analogy about God making us all the same, who's willing to do everything until, you know what I mean? So you gotta buy into this whole narrative.
Yeah.
What happened, Dom, was like it got to be Friday night, and my week wasn't changing. I had I had a decent Monday, I had a horrible Tuesday, horrible Wednesday, not much on Thursday. Friday was terrible, and all I was doing was, I was at this point now proving, watch, no matter what I do, it's not me. Now, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Yeah.
But that's what it was at this point.
Yeah.
I was trying to poke holes in everything that I believed in. Watch. So I got to the end of Friday night, and I was working hard to get a goal. Didn't get it by the time I wanted to go out. And there was a big party, big function. I've been looking forward to it for months. And at some point in that night, I'm like, F it.
Yeah.
I'm not going. I don't deserve to go. And if I want all the things I say I want in my life, then I'm going to stay right effing here. Because most would. And how can I go enjoy a party like a big loser.
Yeah.
So I got my suit on and I'm working. I wanted to dress for success that day. You didn't have to wear a suit to work. And it got to the point, it was 11 o'clock at night. The latest you can call anybody was 9 o'clock. We did not have a Hawaiian market. Otherwise, I would have been there till 2 in the morning. Something like that. Anyway, I was done making phone calls. So there was a 1 or 2 mile route that guys at work were doing that wanted to be in shape. So they'd finish their job and then they'd run. So I said, well, I'm just going to run in my suit with my nice shoes on until I face plant. I don't deserve to even be alive. This is terrible. I wasn't looking for suicide at all.
Yeah.
God forgive me for bringing this up if anybody's feeling terrible about themselves. But I was feeling really low. And I felt like all my dreams were going out the window because I was not in control anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I thought all this effort was always all this work ethic was going to be enough.
Yeah.
Except for when it wasn't. So I just ran. I'll use my energy that way. And I'll just run. And I'm not going to have a number when to stop. What's going to stop me is my heart. And I face plant. And I was not running. I wasn't a runner. And I got to 5 miles in this suit drenched. And all you heard was the echo of my nice shoes.
Yeah.
Because there was not a sound in the town. Nobody was out.
Yeah.
And at 5 miles, I finally said, enough abuse. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
The sun's going to shine tomorrow, and we're going to find a way. So
that's
that story.
I love that story. I really do. I mean, I think that is the epitome of work ethic, and it just talks about work until, right? You had no end in mind. It was, I will do this until I get my outcome. So that's that's awesome.
Thanks. I don't advocate for that in our motivational presentations.
But the lessons learned from that experience obviously are ones that have carried on with you since.
You got to want something that bad.
Yeah.
Then you're going to get it. Yeah.
It's like I remember the football video we used to watch. It came out when I was in high school, but the How Bad Do You Want It video. Do you remember that one? When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
He is the motivational coach. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, let's now talk about Skillset. So Skillset, the tools of the trade, and obviously don't get us wrong in any of this. Skillset is important. Having the skill set in whatever job that you're working is important, and it's vital. And I think Skillset often, when I see it in the automotive industry for car salespeople, training, people do training. There is a lot of training that is focused on whether it's the dealership's sales process, whether it is product knowledge of what's the difference of this car versus that car or that car versus the other car. I think there's very, very limited skill set of actually what do you say when you've got a customer standing here in front of you, or what do you say when you've got a customer on the telephone. And we focus here at Paramount a ton of skill set. I think we also weave in things of mindset into that skill set. We focus a ton on rapport building as a skill set. I think people don't focus enough on that, and specifically just framing of rapport building. It just makes you think of Ogmandino again, and I will greet this day with love in my heart, right? Starting with empathy. What does that mean to you, Dave? And I know you speak about this a lot, but what does that scroll mean to you of I will greet this day with love in my heart?
Well, this can get really deep, so I'm going to do my best to just keep this brief.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision in your life, presuppose things, right? Things you want to believe in. One of the things that I believe in, and Zig Ziglar used to say it, if you can help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And we believe in manifestation. And through manifestation, if you're angry or you're callous or your scarcity mentality or you're vengeful, you're going to attract that whether you want to or you don't. Or you're not going to be able to identify how to make a friend with somebody if you're angry all the time. And Dino, I will greet this day with love in my heart, or greet each person with love in my heart. I don't know the scroll exactly. I believed in it before I read that book too. It was good to hear whenever I was reading things that validated what I was believing. One of which is that people buy from people they like. I think if you're a likable person, it just makes life easier for you. If you're just playing a game, if you're thinking about the money you're going to make from a sale or not, you're going to fail. You got to want to play the game and enjoy the game. And part of enjoying the game is being kind and good to others. So if you make that at the outset of every phone call or every in-person meeting, I want to make sure that people met somebody that they'll remember and have a meaningful interaction with somebody. And if you could do that on every interaction you have of your day, whether that's being at a stoplight, seeing somebody next to you, giving them a little bit of a smile and a head nod, just something that somebody lived a little better because you lived. That sounds maybe a little boastful even. Oh, you're influencing lives now. I don't mean it like that. I just mean like you've got the opportunity in an interaction to pull a success, to keep your manifestation flowing properly, if you set yourself up to win in the simplest way. And the way to win is to say at every phone call, I'm going to find a way to make a difference so that person's lived a little better because of my phone call today, as opposed to setting them off into a manifestation energy that's not going to help them or is going to continue them on the bad plane that they're on. Yeah. And I think by doing that, you're going to attract the people that might need to hear from you. I believe these things in life. You get what you give. You get, all these things are meaningful things from the Bible. So I believe you got to play into the laws of nature to have a chance to succeed.
And I think too, a part of Skillset that I think of is just the energy and enthusiasm and excitement. People might not think of those as Skillset, but I mean, we were just even having discussions here in the office recently, right? We know that, hey, you've got AI is coming, AI agents are coming, you've got computers that can read a script just as good, if not better, than any human being. So what is going to separate that person? If you're just monotone, going through the motions on a phone call, I mean, ultimately it's not to scare anyone or put fear in their minds, but at some point you might get replaced for a thing that can do it for a fraction of the cost for as many times as it wants. To be memorable with every interaction, whether it's a cold call and you're calling a stranger that isn't expecting your call, or it's a warm lead, or take business out of it, just any sort of interaction. I think it's at least the way that I try to frame it for myself. I try to be memorable with every single interaction, so that regardless of my outcome, whether it was accomplished or not, I can leave that interaction knowing that, hey, that person, when they think back of the interaction they had with me, they're going to say, wow, that there was something about him that I'm going to remember. It's to be memorable, because I think in this world, how often is it that you get a call from a spam caller that just sounds robotic, and right away after the first 5 seconds it's click. So I think it's that in part is a skill set, at least I view as a skill set, is just the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement that one is able to bring into an interaction, that in itself is a skill set that can allow you to accomplish more of what it is you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I touched on when I said you want to make someone's day brighter or live a little better because they spoke to you.
Yeah.
The thing that you had mentioned that I caught up with was that AI can replace people. Technology has always been able to replace people.
Mm-hmm.
And the one little thing I'd like to add to what you said is that if people are only worried about staying ahead of machines, like they're worried about keeping their job because the machine might take their job,
they're
not living a very happy life.
Yeah.
I think that my reframe on that would be, AI can do the job for less than a person that's doing the bottom rung of the ladder job.
Yeah.
But do you want to be a person that's just trying to stay ahead on the bottom rung? Or do you want a person that would get rid of all the bottom rungs and hire the AI over those bottom rungs?
Yeah.
Because if your mindset is AI might take my job, you're a bottom runger. Sorry to say.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
for
the
winners,
truth.
for people who are in the 1 and 5%, they're not worried about what AI is going to take or not take. They're just thinking that that's going to help them do their job better and make them more money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that's the truth. And I think the level of competition out there, the one skill set, it's not, when we talk about work ethic, when we talk about WSM, it's an ever going thing. It's a race that you're never going to win, right? It's the pursuit of something. It's chasing after goals. I forget. You have a great definition for. Was it happiness? Was it growth?
That's U.S. Anderson's.
The pursuit of where I'm going.
Yeah, that's U.S. Anderson. It's his definition or meaning of happiness. Happiness is the movement towards meaningful goals with a sense of being able to accomplish them.
Yes.
So people are happy as long as they're moving and they believe they have a chance to get where they're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's
just his meaning of life, really, and that you have to have goals.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Well, last step. So we've talked about work ethic. We've talked about skill set. Now let's talk about mindset, Dave. And I think this is the core foundational pillar, right? We talk about all the time. What is a business? A business is just a mirage. A business is a collection of individuals working towards a common goal. And I think when we break down our walls to its studs, at our core, we focus on mindset. We focus on formulating a winning mindset. So a couple scrolls that come to mind or information that comes to mind. Og Mandino's "Today I Will Be a Master of My Emotions," which I mentioned earlier. Positive thinking, our thoughts create our reality. You say it all the time. Thoughts are things, right? Where energy goes, where your thoughts go, energy flows, results show. So talk about mindset, Dave. What does mindset mean to you? How does someone that is just starting off today and they're getting started in their career, they graduated from college, where do they start? How do they start formulating the right mindset, and how do they work on their mental game? What would be some tips or advice that you might have for mindset?
Well, I hope that I'm saying this right to you, because I don't want to be redundant. I feel like we might have covered this already in, how to get started in creating presuppositions, reframing things, have an understanding of where you want to go in life, and what are the 1%ers doing, what are the 5%ers doing, what are 95% not doing. And those are things like reading the books or taking more courses to learn more things, not just about skills, but about how to be happy, how to, and I don't want to be careful about happiness, but how to be in pursuit of a picture you have in your head of what you want your life to be. Because so many people, especially young people, Dom, they get really focused on how to connect the dots from where they sit or stand to where they picture life being. And I think that's a mistake. I think you have to try something. But once you get and I don't love the word try, but you got to start somewhere. So once you've made up your mind that you're going to take that job, then we got to go back to not giving it 3 months or 6 months. I've got to be the person that's going to make superstardom out of this. And not worry about that it's going to be my lifelong dream to be the best of whatever it is I'm doing right now. But the character traits of the person that's in the 1% or 5%, what would they be doing at this job right now? Because it's that mindset that will attract the next thing, whatever that might be, that's going to help them get to where it is they're dreaming of getting to. The how will appear when you know absolutely why you want that dream. And then be willing to do whatever necessary in your current circumstances without looking over at better things and mastering it. And you'll know when you've mastered it and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
But that's how I would start as a young person right now. I would make a decision on a good area that I thought people are going to really want. It's really going to help people, problem solve, whatever it's going to be, and then master it. Not give it a certain amount of time. Make a decision what mastery looks like. Do the things that 1%ers and 5%ers are doing in that industry. And you'll have more answers as to the how. But the why behind it is because you didn't have enough when you were growing up. Or you absolutely were determined that what success looked like someday in your life was that you lived a certain way and were surrounded by certain people. It might be some material things. And you got to put your teeth into that and say, okay, what kind of person has those things, and what would they be doing right now when it's 11 o'clock at night and there's nothing left to do and everybody else is gone? What are those 1% things?
Yeah.
And focus on those things.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the starting point is for mindset. YouTube is great. All the Instagram is great. There's a lot of great learning lessons out there, but you've got to live it. You have to live it, and it's hard, but it's worth it.
And
it's the only thing that'll give you the chance.
Yeah, and I think with mindset too, that we haven't talked about much yet today, but it's also goal setting, right? And being very clear with your goals. I think through the goal setting workshops that you've hosted throughout the years, and I know we'll be hosting another one here soon. But talk a little bit about that, Dave. The way that you approach goal setting. I think you have a pretty unique and interesting approach with it, with the way that you think about goals, the way that you envision yourself already having accomplished those goals. I mean, maybe touch on that a bit, just goal setting, and I think how it also relates to manifestation, maybe the law of attraction as well.
Yeah, I was sold early on the fact that you had to have a direction. They don't play football without goalposts.
Yeah.
They don't play football without an end zone, or baseball without bases, and they don't, or a number of innings, or basketball without nets. So you have to have something that you're going for. You have to be clear, because if your brain doesn't have a distinct path, you're going to start questioning why you're doing what you're doing. What's the point? There has to be a point. There has to be a winner and a loser, in yourself or in the game. So goals are important, so that you also know if you're on the right track. people burn a lot of years because they don't have a goal necessarily, or their goal is vague. I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
Well, how do you measure that? So the ways to setting the goals then are writing it down, stating it as if it's already happened, putting a timeline to it, checking it from time to time, journaling, writing down your actions in line with those goals.
Yeah.
Because if you notice that the things that you're doing aren't moving you closer to, then you got to tweak some things. But yeah, goal setting is a topic of its own. That, to your point about manifestation and all those other things have to be aligned and you have to notice.
Yeah.
But a simple one, if we want to leave people with this, is to just write down 10 goals, put a timeline on them for this year, just for this year, and then identify personal, social, or work. But if you just wrote them down in the positive, put a timeline on them for this year, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever it might be, but by the end of the year, 80% of them will be accomplished. So that's a simple way of getting started.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'm sure we could probably have another full episode on just talking about goal setting and going through a goal setting workshop. So we'll bottle that for later. Let's transition, Dave, into current industry trends, our industry, the automotive industry. Again, we're talking about telephone mastery and why the phone is so important, and why I believe and we believe the phone today is more important than it's ever been. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of companies out there in the automotive industry today that focus on technology, that focus on automation, that focus on AI. It's email marketing campaigns, it's social media marketing campaigns, it's text campaigns and email campaigns, and we do all that stuff also. I think this hits on the point as well that you spoke about last week, a little bit of the human condition, right? Which dealerships do exist in part because people need to drive cars and cars break down. So I would go on a limb and say that the majority of customers that a dealership sells cars to are customers that are already looking to buy cars, or customers that are already in the market or are thinking about purchasing a vehicle. There is nothing that I believe that sending an email or sending a text message will do to sell somebody who isn't in the market, to change their mind, to see that have that light bulb aha moment, to convince them, hey, you know what, maybe this does make sense. So I think emails, I think text messages, I think having great sequencing and having the right messages is vital, and it's important, and you absolutely should do it. I think that might get you 90% of the way there. I think what drives it home and what puts a butt in a car and that car burning gas is the power of the telephone to take that home and take it the extra 10%. What do you think about that, Dave?
The analogy of the 90-10, when we talked about Skillset in the beginning,
yeah,
versus mindset,
yeah,
or work ethic in there somewhere, or working out where working out is maybe 20% of it, 30%, and 70% is diet. All that stuff is not the 90% to me. The 90% or the 80%
yeah,
is the people connecting a live human being at the dealership when they walk in the door, or the telephone. And in the case of what you're talking about, which is leads, right? Emailing and texting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's important, but that represents to me the 10% or the 20% that everybody does. Some not as well as others, and you have to do it. But what's going to get them into the dealership is not the email, to your point, or the text. It's going to be the skill set, because of the mindset of somebody that really wants to be successful, that's going to get them there. It's not going to be beguiling them with prizes or giving them another Starbucks card. It's going to be somebody building great rapport and making sense to that customer, and ultimately because they want to be successful themselves.
Yeah. Look, I totally agree. I think this was great information today, Dave. I know our listeners, whoever and wherever they might be, are going to take a lot of actionable items from our conversation today. So just remember the telephone's power. It's not just in the skill set, work ethic, mindset. When you can combine the three of these together, that's when you'll really have a chance to be able to do something great. So thank you all for listening here this week. And next week we're going to have a very special guest on our podcast. I know a top award-winning general manager who's going to be joining us here. So we'll have some more details to follow on that.
Thanks so much, Tom. And I just want to make sure that we touch at some point. I don't know that we honed in on what you wanted to hone in on. That's my fault because I got on sidetracks on the power of the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of the phone, it just leads to so many other things that I already believe, which is the power of belief, the power of mindset, the power of selling, the psychology of being sold yourself on you before you can sell anybody else. There are so many things we got to get into to help people, and goal setting is at the basis of a lot of this too. That helps keep you on the track.
Yeah.
So the power of the phone, real quick, is it's since it was invented, it was knocking on doors, and that's still important. But knocking on the doors, you can get to a lot more doors a lot faster when you become great on the telephone. And the phone is vital. It's the lifeline. It still is in every industry, and it always will be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Dave. This was great, and looking forward to our next episode.
Okay, Dom, thanks a lot.
Thank you.